Welcome to the MFF Summer Virtual Conference focused on earning income in a changing world. With the COVID pandemic taking place, jobs being upended, and people now trying to figure out what they're going to do next, we decided that bringing in a panel of people with diverse backgrounds that have overcome obstacles over time to get to their current position and level of success. We're excited to bring you 4 very interesting panelists from different industries and different backgrounds. Each of the panelists will be introduced by one of our MFF fellows. A fellow is an alumni of our Standards of Financial Literacy program. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ella Chhom so that she can introduce our first panelist.
So I'm introducing Jeff Gild, and he has been the Field Operations Manager at Liberty Utilities since 2013. He has over 30 years of experience with aspects used in the natural gas and propane industry, backing his confidence as a dedicated leader. Jeff's strong suit is finding engaging ways to enforce teams while also maintaining high standards and giving clear direction. Jeff has hands in collaborating with city and town inspectors, homeowners, and other construction workers to work on a multitude of different construction projects. I would like to take a moment to thank him for joining us today. Jeff, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Ella. That great introduction. I really appreciate that. I work for Liberty Utilities. I'm a gas manager of all of New Hampshire. And if some of you that don't know about Liberty Utilities, we're the largest natural gas distribution company in New Hampshire. We are owned by Algonquin Power, and they have companies all throughout the United States and Canada. So it's an exciting company to work for, and we're growing every day. And if you look on the stock market, it's AQN, Algonquin Power. That's on the stock market. And our stocks are doing really great. And I'm actually investing, our company allows us to invest in the stock market with a 10% discount right off the bat. So I've been investing ever since we were taken over by Algonquin Power. So I have my associate's degree. I got that in 1988. And it was for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And right as I graduated, I entered the gas company. And what I started off with was doing service repair and, turning on meters. And it was a real great company to get into because obviously it's a utility. And actually, like 4 guys that I graduated with, we've been together since then, right out of college. And our careers have been throughout, I've been with the same company, even though we changed names, it's the same company I've been there for 32 years. So I started off repairing equipment. I did that for 15 years. And then after that, I started working on gas leaks as a crew leader. And this is all being in the Steelworkers Union. I was a crew leader for 10 years. And then being in the company for 25 years and working really hard, and the company noticed how great of a worker I was, and I would always work overtime and I'd always stay late. They offered me a job as a supervisor. So, after 25 years of hard labor, I was like, okay, I'm in for being a supervisor. So from then I was a supervisor for 5 years, and then the manager position came up and they hired me as a manager. So I've been a manager for 2 years, and the company's great and I really like it. I'll do a little sales pitch, and if I start going too long, definitely let me know. Obviously, natural gas is the preferred choice, for cooking in residential home heating. Professional chefs prefer to cook with natural gas. And every year since 2016, we create about 2,100 more customers, and we're like expanding into Pelham, Windham, and we're trying to get natural gas up in Lebanon, New Hampshire. So I mean, the potential is there for the growth. And not only to do what I'm doing or to repair gas leaks, we have human resources, accounting, sales, buildings and grounds. I mean, there's a whole variety. Our company is so large that there's so many positions, if you don't want to be a serviceman, but there's working for Liberty Utilities, and it's a great company. Obviously, I've been there for 32 years. I have 5 weeks vacation. Like I said, I have the stock options. I have my 401k, and it's been great. And Judy wanted me to do this plug. started when I was 23 years old. And by the time I was like almost 25 years old, I bought my first lot of land, and I built a house like a year later. And ever since then, you know, I stayed at that house for like maybe 10 years. Then I sold it, made a lot of money off of it, bought another house. So my point is getting into a good position. I was able to invest my money properly, sell and buy and sell homes and make a lot of money off of it. Right now, I bought my condo for cash. We live in our condo. I don't have a mortgage. Basically, right now, I could probably retire if I wanted to. I do love my job, and I'm only 55 years old, so I kind of want to stay maybe till I'm 62. But it's just the point of, getting started. No matter what you do, getting started in a job, working hard, improving yourself. Even though the job you might not like it at first, but just proving yourself, it just shows where you can get in your life and your career. And when we go into the breakout rooms, I'll probably talk a lot more about, how did I get to go to school for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and how did I get to where I am now? And a little bit, I got a lot of stories that we can do in the breakout rooms, and I'm looking forward to going to the breakout rooms and talking, and hoping I get a lot of questions, and I appreciate that, and thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about your journey. And Ella, thank you for introducing him. And we will now switch over to Marc Lussier, who will be introduced by MFF fellow Maria Nellette.
Hi, thank you so much for that, Jeff. That was a great background story. I really enjoyed hearing that. So Marc Lussier is currently VP of Operations at Geophysical Survey Systems in Nashville as of January of this year. GSSI produces ground-penetrating radar for several different industries. Marc is also a partner at Lear Capital Partners. Lear Capital Partners focuses on early-stage teams and helps founders with dedicated advising and support. Marc brings a wealth of knowledge and career excellence in areas of international sales and service, engineering, marketing, and project management. He believes that people are the most important asset of any company and is focused on startups and advising companies that can benefit from his 30+ years of experience. Marc is passionate about helping companies develop a clear strategy and vision. He holds a BS in electronic engineering from UMass, as well as an MBA from SNHU. Marc lives in southern New Hampshire and is very family-oriented. Marc has a 25+ year history of community service, including Morgan Franklin Fellowship as a volunteer financial mentor. Thank you for joining us today, Marc. I'll hand it off to you now.
Wow, Maria, that was excellent. Sounds so much better than I really am. You did a good job.
Thank you.
So I'm going to cover kind of a group of topics. I know today's topic is, funding income in a changing world, and the agenda talked about career background, but marketable skills and supplemental income and job resources. And so I'm going to probably jump around quite a bit, and I'm hoping I touch on different areas that maybe bring up topics that we can discuss more in the breakout sessions. So excuse me if I jump around. I want to hit a lot of different areas that I think are kind of pertinent to today's session. So I'm going to go back to early parts of my career. So I ended up graduating high school at 17 and probably too young to go to college, but I went to UNH for a year. Had a 1.2 GPA, pretty bad, and left UNH and went, okay, that was a really bad start. So talk about a changing world. Don't know what I'm going to do now. So went to the Votech in Stratham and got my associates in electronic engineering. Said, okay, now I've got something to move forward with. Got a job because I had no money, so I couldn't afford to go to school. So while I was getting my associates, I was basically working full-time and going to school full-time. That's was a little bit tough, but it was a good 2 years. So got a job, decided they could pay for the rest of college. I went to college for a total of 13 years by the time I got my master's degree. So most of that time working full-time and going to school as often as I could. So it was kind of, driven. My father was always, you can be the garbage man if you're happy. You can be the head of a company if you're happy. As long as you're happy, it doesn't matter. but if you want to make money, you'll probably have to work hard. So did some of that. What happened is I got that job. I started off, as $8 an hour, making, a decent living, and realized I wanted to be an engineer, and, maybe I get into management someday. So kind of work towards those goals. So I would get married. I was 20 years old, married my high school sweetheart. Again, just trying to make ends meet. We bought into a townhouse and needed to borrow some money from my parents to make that happen. And basically was eating macaroni and cheese and peanut butter sandwiches so that we could pay them back as fast as we possibly could, because I hate owing anybody money. And with that first job, we said, okay, we really need to live a financially secure life. If you look at the stresses that you have in life, marriage can become stressed because of finances, your work life, worrying about your job, all of those things, all of that stress from life almost always is, not almost always, but oftentimes can be linked to financial stress. So we started investing as soon as we were married. Didn't have the money. We were paying back loans, like I said, and it didn't matter. We found a way to save even very small amounts of money, and contacted a friend and got into a mutual fund and made very, very small checks to invest in. And as soon as I got that real job, they had a 401k plan, and put in everything I could to make sure that I got the full match from that 401k plan. And every time I got a raise, half the raise went towards putting more in the 401k plan, and spent my life living well below my means, and just worked at investing and investing and investing. And a big part of that was a little strange for my wife and I, because as we went through that whole portion of making sure that we had a financially secure life, we were looking at friends and family buying big houses and getting fancy cars and taking trips and toys. People get motorcycles, and we were looking at each other saying, what are we doing wrong? All our friends have so much more than we have. And if I could go back to them knowing what I know now, I will tell you that most of my friends and family that live that lifestyle suffered pretty badly because of that after. So some of them worked so hard and concentrated only on money and things that they ruined their personal lives. They ended in divorce, or they had other issues. Another group of friends that had all those fancy things, and they were all showy and living this great life, or so we thought. Many of them ended up bankrupt and had really severe financial stress in their lives. And one thing, my wife and I are been married all these years, and as happy a marriage as I think anybody in the world has. And a big part of that is we live below our means. We got a credit card bill, we paid it off. We saved up to buy if we wanted something. We put a little bit of money aside in some other account until we had it. We went on a trip once we saved money to do those things. So, when we look at background and where you are, I can tell you the stories about, job stress. I lost my job 5 times in 5 years. Every Thanksgiving, I'd come home within a week of Thanksgiving and tell my wife, 5 straight years, lost my job. But I never went a day without work. So it's the type of person you are and how you react. And one of the things we talk about, job resources. One morning I went to work in Merrimack and Northern Technologies, and they said, we're moving to Connecticut. You're welcome to move to Connecticut if you'd like a job. That was 9 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock, I was in the yellow pages of the phone book. And for those of you that are younger, you can Google what yellow pages are, but you can find things there. It was the Google of back then in the 80s. And I called engineering consultants, just went down the list and started calling them all, found a guy who was willing to have lunch with me, came back from lunch and had a job offer. And, within 3 hours of, knowing that I was out of a job, I had a new job lined up. And when I had other times that happened, that companies were closing, I went to a temp agency and said, just get me work anywhere. I won't be without work. So, and even the first job that I had, my friends were, I sent out 20 resumes, I'm waiting to hear back. And that was never me. I printed 100 resumes, and I drove to business, door to door for days on end, all over Merrimack and Nashua and Dover, and didn't matter where. So, when people talk about, it's hard for me to do this or hard for me to do that, and sometimes it is, and people have a lot of different situations, but a big part of job resources and supplemental income and all of those things. It's your desire to be able to do that. So I've made a history of investing from the day that I started. And as I said, mutual funds, I started E-Trade accounts, I did all those types of things. And as my career built and I got promotion after promotion, I got to the point I was head of global services and they wanted me to take over companies in China and all these other places. I was able to say that money's not that important to me. I'm financially sound. I don't want to move someplace else. I like my family. I was born in New Hampshire. I'm going to die in New Hampshire. I don't want the stress of running some big company. I like being vice president. I'm extremely happy doing that job. So I can pick something that fits me, something that just truly makes me happy. And that's where I'm at.
Thank you so much, Marc. That was wonderful. It was great. It was really great to hear all about your background and how you got to where you are now. And thank you, Maria, as well, for introducing him. We will now move to Amy Chhom, who will be introduced by MFF fellow Lindsays Journey.
Thank you, Marc. That was great. I married my high school sweetheart as well. It's going so good so far. I want to introduce Amy. Amy has been a hustler for as long as she can remember. Those are her words. She has a background in property management, which led her to becoming a real estate agent in 2004. In 2017, she started her own brokerage with the Chhom Group with the intent of developing driven real estate entrepreneurs. Amy has been tirelessly an advocate for the community. It's important to her to make Manchester a better place. She has firsthand experience in property management, commercial real estate, residential brokerage, facility management, and real estate development. Amy has been recognized in the community with the 2016 Outstanding Women in Business Award by New Hampshire Business Review. And in 2012, she was named 40 Under 40. In 2014, she had a Leadership New Hampshire Alumni Award. Currently, she is a partner at the Factory on Willow, LLC with Liz Hitchcock, spearheading the redevelopment of one of the last remaining mills in Manchester with the intention to give the city a creative hub. She is a proud mom of 2 children, one of which is Ella, who's on this call, and introduced Jeff. And I will send it over to Amy.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, thank you, Lindsay, for that introduction. So yes, I use the word hustler, but I use it in a way that is defined as like an enterprising person determined to succeed, not in a negative way. And I recently became to discover that that's kind of what my MO has been since I was a kid, as a result of working with Peter Morgan, and he forced me to kind of outline my history since I was a kid and indicate decisions that were made that brought me to where I am today. And I realized as part of that exercise that I'd always been extremely driven and always been diversified. I was raised in Massachusetts by a father that was a teacher, and my mother was a stay-at-home, and I was number 6 of 7 kids growing up on a farm. And I decided at an early age that I was going to do the best that I could do at everything that I could do. So I was in AP classes, I was taking college classes when I was in high school, going over to UMass Lowell. I was in honor society. I was in every club and every sport. And as I got to an age where I could get employed, which was 14 at the time, I got my first job. And from there, I was working at Drake Recreation and Conservation. And I joke and say, oh, now I take down trees instead of saving trees as part of real estate and redevelopment. And then I was getting my paycheck and I went to CVS was my next job. And I noticed waitresses making lots of money, lots of cash, and they always seemed happy. And so I said, I want to be a waitress. So I got a job at a breakfast Greasy Spoon. So I was working at CVS during the week after school. And on the weekends, I was working at a Greasy Spoon, making my $100 in tips, and thought I was rich. And then I went to college. I went to Massachusetts College of Art and Design because I was going to be an artist. And the entire time that I was at Mass Art, I was waitressing and working in hospitality and high-end restaurants as well. And my parents couldn't pay for college. So that was my major motivating factor, was to get enough money to be able to pay for college, or else I would have to go home. So I took on 3 jobs, and I was able to pay for school my last 3 years in cash without having to take out any additional debt. When I got out of school, I traveled and I worked in hospitality because artists don't make money. No offense to those that are artists, but it's a very difficult field. And if you aren't business oriented, which at the time I wasn't, it's difficult to generate enough income to support yourself. So I traveled for a while, was in the hospitality business, came back and fell into a job with a gentleman who is a large entrepreneur and real estate developer here in Manchester, New Hampshire. And through my time with him, I was mentored throughout all the different stages of the organization, where after 15 years of working for him, I had been exposed to and intimately involved in investment structures, real estate development. We did the largest project in New Hampshire at the time of the recession, and made a commitment to employing New Hampshire-based labor and staff when we built a $72 million ambulatory care center. And what I learned most from him was that everything was about relationships. It was all about how you treat people, how you work with people, and the time you give people. That actually reaps a benefit for you in the long run. So no matter who the person was, where they came from, or what they were asking, you would take the time to meet with them and give them time and give them advice and direct them. Over time, I also realized that you needed to kind of have an online brand or an online presence or a public presence. And I got engaged and involved in different organizations, such as Leadership Manchester was my first step into an organization. I knew I wanted to not be Amy at Anagnost. I wanted to be Amy Chhom. So I got involved in Leadership Manchester, created a small network through that was mostly Manchester based. I then was like, well, that's not good enough. And I got involved in Leadership New Hampshire because that's a statewide organization. And I began to get to know people and understand the breadth of networking statewide. And then I got involved in 40 Under 40 in 2016. I got awards, and I started to be engaged in the community, and I engaged in the chamber, and it resulted in me having a passion and an investment in my community and wanting to make it better, which involves running a business, trying to help others become financially stable, etc. But the one thing I never learned as I'm closing up is that I never learned how to manage my money in such a way that it would personally work for me. I always knew how to run everybody else's money. And so that is something that in these last couple of years I've really been focused on, is how do I create my own worth and how do I invest to make my money make money? And that's partly why I'm involved in the Morgan Franklin Fellowship. So I have lots more stories, but I know that I'm running out of time, and I'm happy to talk about anything that you guys have. I'm pretty open book.
All right, well, thank you so much, Amy. It was wonderful to hear everything about how you've gotten to where you are. And thank you, Lindsay, for introducing her. And we will now move forward to our last panelist, Tina Sharby, who will be introduced by Trent Remillard, an MFF fellow who also works on special projects and bookkeeping for us.
Tina M. Sharby is the Chief Human Resource Officer for Easterseals, where she is the strategic partner for this multi-state organization. She's SHRM certified as an HR professional, serving on several nonprofit boards throughout the state, and is a founding member and chair of the Diversity Workforce Coalition, a member of the Business and Industry Association Health Development Committee, and a member of the Economic Vitality New Hampshire Committee. She received her master's degree in 2019 from Granite State College and was the recipient of the NH Business Review Excellence and Nonprofit Large Business 2019 Award. Take it away, Tina.
Thank you very much, Trent. Well, I'm very pleased to be here today. I do have a little bit of a scratchy throat, so I apologize if it's not very clear for me or for you. I can hear myself fine. So I grew up in Long Island in New York and lived there until the age of 16. My birth mother passed away when I was 16 years old. Both of my parents were deaf, so I grew up in a very different environment. When my mother died, I moved out of the house and couch surfed for about 9 months. My father and I did not have a very good strong relationship. So couch surfing, I cleaned houses to earn money because that was pretty much the only job that I could get, and would go into different neighborhoods and approach and see if I could help individuals in nicer neighborhoods that would want the help for cleaning their houses. I did that for about the 9 months. And as a result, I didn't really attend my junior year of high school. I was trying to make ends meet, trying to feed myself and help out with rent where I could. Then at the end of my 16th year, I moved to New Hampshire to live with my aunt and uncle, who I now call my mom and dad. And I was able to graduate on time because my senior year, I just had to double up on classes, not take any lunch, and graduated from Alvern High School in Hudson, New Hampshire on time in '82. I then from there became an emancipated minor and was able to salvage enough money and loans to be able to go to college, where I attended Keene State College. While I was going to college, I did several jobs. Every summer, I would clean offices. I worked at McDonald's. I did the night shift at McDonald's, the cleaning up shift, and I worked at a Mexican restaurant waitressing. Waitressing, you can make a lot of money, and it is a lot of fun. That's where I realized that I love working with people. I love talking with people. I love interacting with people. And then I also lifeguarded during the day. So it was not unusual for me to have 3 or 4 jobs. And when I was in college, I definitely had 2 jobs, working one for a higher end restaurant waitressing, and then also working back in the days when Papa Gino's used to have waitress service. I did waitressing there to get me through college, for books and spending money and tuition, and was not able to really look at a master's degree until much later, like finished last year. My first job was working for the Moore Center, which is a human service organization here in Manchester, and I stayed there for 13 years, learned the ropes of HR on my own. I reported directly to the assistant controller. Did not have any mentor, which I think is really important for individuals to have, is to have that mentor, the financial mentor, the professional mentor, and then moved on to Easterseals, where I am now, and moved up here, had great mentorship, and was afforded the opportunity to build external relationships. Part of what one of the other speakers was saying, the relationships are really important. I attended Leadership Manchester, was able to establish a network there. I am involved in many boards, all in the area of human resources and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you get to learn more about your skills and improve your skills by having those relationships with other individuals. So I've been here at Easterseals now for 22 years this month. My only professional experience has been nonprofit experience. I have not ever worked in the for-profit other than my waitressing, lifeguarding type jobs. I have a few interesting stories. When I worked for the Moore Center, I kept my waitressing job at the Ground Round, which was in the Mall of New Hampshire way back when. And I made more money that one night at the Ground Round than I did all week long working as like an assistant personnel coordinator at the Moore Center for $6.01 an hour. But you got to do what it takes. Yeah, I needed the experience. I wanted to get into the professional world. I knew that eventually my back would give out on me if I tried to waitress my whole life through. But I needed the money, so I waitressed, and the waitressing really, it was a great job for me. My father had a very big influence on me. He made sure that I did not spend too much money. My first car, he wouldn't let me purchase unless the payments were less than $200 a month. My car payment was $197.26. I'll never forget it because I was like, I did it. It was under $200 a month. He always told me, invest in myself first. So in a nonprofit organization, we have a 403B, which is very similar to a 401k, and I always put the max. Whatever I could put in and get a match for, I just always put in. And that has served me very well over the years. My accounts have done well. I'm not savvy with the stock market and the money market, but I know enough to talk with people who are a little more savvy than I am to make sure that I have everything invested the way that reflects my needs for retirement. And it pains me when we have new employees that come in and they don't put the 2% of their salary. Or now it's 3%, and we give a 3% match, because 3% match just goes away. It's free money if you just put that 3% in. And most people don't even realize when they put that money in, it's not significant enough that they're going to be missing that 3% that they put in. Usually maybe 1 or 2 big cups of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts will pay for that. So I have a lot more stories. I love my job. I love being able to work for an organization where mission is so critical and we're able to help other individuals. And I look forward to talking to more of you in the breakout groups.
Thank you for joining us for the MFF virtual conference focused on earning income in a changing world. We hope that you enjoyed hearing from all of our panelists, Jeff, Marc, Amy, and Tina, as they all have interesting stories, and we really enjoyed hearing their background. You can learn more about our upcoming events at morganfranklinfellowship.com, as well as our flagship program, The Standards of Financial Literacy. Thanks again for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.